Welcome on Travel's Code channel. In this video we will continue talking about React and specifically for React forms. So I will show you today how to create simple React form and how to manage states for all fields we have. For example, on the form we created, we have two input fields, one text area, one select, it's drop down with countries, for example, and we have a checkbox and a few radio buttons. And when we click submit with some value, we will have all data we put. So this data is saved into the state and we can manage this data. Also, we will add some super simple validation for name. You can add the same validation for all fields, but the approach is the same. For example, when we type too small name, we have some validation, and when we type bigger, we're deleting this error. So for this video, we will use React control forms, and we don't use any libraries. I will show you how to create it and how to manage this state. Also, in this video, we don't cover unit tests for forms, but they are very important, so try to implement unit tests. In the next video, I will show you how to create the same form with specific libraries, which will help you to manage this state. So, as working with forms in web development, it's one of the most common tasks, we need to know how to do it with React. So let's start and create such amazing form. Let's start from the very beginning. I created empty application with create React app, and now as you see we have a regular structure. Let's go to app.js, and inside we will delete everything what we do not need anymore, and here we will put our first form. What do we need? We need create form, for example, label, and let's put name. And we will have only one field, it's name for now. And the next one, we want to show it by clicking submit, for example. Let's add the button, submit, and for now that's it. Let's open our application. So we are using, in terminal we are using create React app, so let's open localhost 3000 and we will see what we have. Okay, we will split our screen and we have form. Okay, let's wrap it into the div and it will be on the next line. Okay, when we type something and we click submit, we don't have anything, we have only this button. Okay, what do we need to do? First of all, we need to handle somehow input name. We need to save this data to variable and then we will use it in the form and we can show it somehow. To do it we need some state. Let's use useState. We will import it from React, and now we can create a first state. It will be name, and function to set it, set name. Default value will be empty string because we don't want to show anything here by default. And let's put name. So we need pass value. Value is our name, our state, and when we change function we need to call set name with new value from this input. To do it we can call on change event, and let's create new function, for example on change. we will have event, and inside what do we need? We need get value. To get value we can use const value event target value and set name value. Now we will save this data to our state name, and the easiest one I will show you. This one. So we have const value and we save it. Now let's show this data, for example, when we click submit. Let's only console log name. To check, we will open inspect and console. We will see data. Okay, let's type Maxim, for example, click submit, and we see that we have name, but then we have page refresh. It's not what we expect. First of all, let's prevent this behavior. To prevent this behavior, we need for submit on submit event, and let's create new function on submit. We will handle submit event. We will have event. What we need prevent default behavior. So let's call prevent default. And now, as you see, we have what we need. We don't refresh page, but we have this data. It works great. Now you can show this data everywhere where you need. The next one, what we need to do in case we have a few fields. Let's add one more, for example, email. We can copy this section. Let's add some line and put email. Name will be email, value email, and for onChange we need in this case create new function onChange email, but it's not, it looks not interesting, so we can do a bit better. Let's have our function. We have event and we will call set email event target value. So we will have value from email field and we will set it directly to this field. We don't have function email right now. Let's copy this state and create email and set email. By default we will have empty value, and now when we will change something in the email field, for example as you see we have this data. In this case we didn't create a new function, so this one is redundant, we can delete it and use only this one. But one of the biggest disadvantages, when we will have a huge form, we need to create state for every field in this form, and it will be huge. To do it a bit simpler, we can create only one state, for example form, and set form. By default we will have object with fields name and email. Now when we change name or email, we can call only one function, for example onChange, and inside let's use setForm. What do we need? First of all, we need value and name of the field. Why do we need it? This only one function will handle all to these input fields for name and email. The difference is only with name field. So we can get name, and based on this name field we can set a specific property in the state. Now let's use setForm, and we will use callback function state. We will have current state, and in the function we need pass a new object. So first of all, let's pass state. For example, if we will have something already, we need to save this data, and then we need to update new field name value. So how it works? In show data we don't have this data, so let's put form, and so we will have access to this data. And now we need to change values. It will be form name and form email. Okay. Let's start, for example, name and email. And as you see, we have access for these fields. How it works? When we updating name, we call function onChange. From this target, from this field, we get name of the field, and we are getting value, for example. And then we set name, it's calculated field based on the field we passed. For example, it might be name or email, and we set value. For this one, just do not rewrite already previously saved information. We double setting state. For example, let's delete it, and I will show you how it works without it. For example, we have maxim. Let's submit it, and let's type, for example, email. And as you see, we have only email, we don't have name. When we update name, we have name, we don't have email, because in this case we set new object with only one field, and we delete the previously saved information. To prevent it, we need to save all fields from the state. And now, when we have this information, we can create as many fields as we need. For example, let's create a new one, text area. Description, for example. What we need the same onChange. Name will be description, and value we will have description as well. Now we need to create a new field, and that's it. Let's add line. And for submit, as you see, we have all these three fields. It works great. Okay, the next one, a bit more complex, when we have some drop down select. Okay, let's create new select. For example, US. And the same for onChange. We need set this value. We will call onChange function. Okay, let's try. And as you see, we have country the same. Also, we can try to set some value. For example, we want to save Canada as default value, and for this input we will put value as form country. Let's update and take a look what we have. And as you see, when we update our form, we already have predefined value for Canada. So with these form inputs, it works, everything works great. And as you see, we have only one function to handle all these states. Also, for example, for onSubmit, we can also add show data, you can call. And in this case, we don't need this part anymore. When we submit our form, we automatically will show result. Or when we click enter in the field, we will have all this data. The next one, let's say, for example, some checkbox fields. Let's copy again new section. For example, agree with something, agree or not. We will have checkbox, its type input, type checkbox, for example, name agree and form agree. By default, it will be false. And when we change, we need to get this data. Let's take a look. For example, let's submit it false. When we click agree, let's call submit, and what we see, we have false again, but it was true. Why? Because of the input type checkbox, it works a bit another. So to get value, we need to check target type, and we need not value, we need checked. For example, when we will set value, we can check type. Is type checkbox, we will set checked, otherwise value. So we're checking if it's checkbox, we will set this value. Okay, let's set only this one field, and what we see agree. Let's delete it. False. Let's check something else. Let's submit, and we see that we have all information what we need. So this one is a pretty tricky part, but it works. The next one very popular field we can use its radio button. Okay, let's create new field. For example, and we will have 3 different fields. For example, we will put for input type radio, value will be male, name is gender and it's for male. The same let's do for female, name is the same and text. And for example, other. Okay, let's check what we have. When we click, you see we can choose only one field. Okay, it's what we expected. And the next one, we need let's create in our form new field. By default, it will be empty. And now again, when we onChange it, we need call function onChange. Let's do it by onChange. Let's copy. Okay, what do we have? Let's click submit. We see gender empty. Let's click male, for example. Gender male. Now we can click female. Gender is female. So as you see, it works from the box. Why? Because we are using the same approach. We get value. We do not need check type because of radio it's the same. We can skip this one. This one will be false. We don't set checked, we only set value. Okay, and now for example, let's set some value by default. For example, we won't set other. Let's choose it as a default value. And now we need only specify which field is checked by default. Let's add a new field, for example, property checked, and it will be if form gender is male. Now we can copy and repeat for 2 fields we have. For female and other. Let's refresh our page and we see that by default other is selected. And it works. So it's how do we handle React forms. It looks pretty easy, but what is the biggest disadvantage? In this case, it's form validation. Right now we put everything what we need, and when we click submit, we see that we have empty fields. But for example, we need some data should be required. Of course, we can use we can use HTML property, for example, required or min length 5, and we will see that we have some validation, but it's default browser validation, and usually for UI we need something beautiful with some notifications. How to handle these notifications? It's in React with this approach is the biggest pain, because of in function on submit we need to check all fields from our form and compare it with some validation rule, and if it's not what we expect, we need the return. For example, for on submit, let's check if form name length is less than 5. Let's, for example, return, and we need to set some error. How to do it? To do it, we need some validation field. For example, for name, we can add the all fields, but right now it will be only for name. And in on submit, what we need set error, the same as gets the previous state, and we will set some validation error. And now in our field, let's under label, we can check if we have error. Yes, error. If we have error name, we can show, for example, this error name. Let's try. So now we have my field. Let's click submit. We have data. Let's type, for example, something else and click submit. Okay, we need to remove HTML browser validation. And now, as you see, we have error, but we have okay, let's add some formatting. Okay, now it looks better. And what we need? First of all, for on submit, we need always prevent default behavior. Then we will check validation, and only that we can do some action with show fields. Okay, let's try. And as you see, we have some validation error and we don't see data in console because of we didn't show anything. Let's type, for example, something and submit, and we have data, but we need to clear this error. To do it, we need to add else part, should be empty, and let's don't forget about state for the other errors if we have. And it works. But as you see, we need to create a huge function checking for every field, and it's a terrible approach. But if you're following this way, you have to do it. We can put these validation fields into the separate function, but anyway, we need to clarify this behavior setting errors. How to handle it? To fix this approach, we can use already created library for handling forms. It's very good that we are using React, because in React we have a huge number of already created libraries, for example, Final Form or Formik. And in the next video I will show you how to use such forms. So don't forget subscribe my YouTube channel, and in the next video we will find out how to simplify our life and do not create such boilerplate code, and handle everything with specific functions and components. So good luck!